Hey everybody, world's biggest geek here. My name is Kevin, back in another video here today. And I just finished the season finale, final season of Star Wars Andor. Guys, Andor by far was truly one of my favorite Star Wars shows of all time. I truly put this one at the best, at the top so far. I think, like I said, all they shows they've done so far, Skeleton Crew, Ahsoka, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Star Wars Andor. I have to say, I think Andor is truly one of the best ones they've done so far. And like I said, not knocking all the other ones. Like I said, Obi-Wan Kenobi was an awesome show. The fight between him and Darth Vader. But this show, no, Andor, I think, is probably by far, it's just mind blowing. Just shows you how all of this connects into Rogue One. Like I said, Rogue One, best Star Wars movie of all time. Now I know there's a debate between Episode 5, Empire Strikes Back, but like I said, Rogue One, best Star Wars movie of all time. I think has been the greatest story to know that this is a world that they were stealing plans to find a way to destroy the Death Star. So, Cassian was on the crew of Rogue One because, they had to find a way to destroy the Death Star. They didn't want this plan to get into, the Empire didn't want this get into the rebellion hands. All this together, it's just awesome. How it all connects together by saying, wow, there's a show that was before all this ever happened. And Star Wars Andor came to that full circle to show you right before Rogue One, it all made a perfect connection together to put all the pieces in the right spot. So let's just get into season 2, guys. So like I said, it picks up, Cassian is at a Empire base trying to steal one of their new ships because I guess the Empire developed it. And there was a girl who was checking the ship, and then she's like, I had orders not to look at you. It's like, look, we are doing this because we cannot let the Empire win. We cannot let them take this power, this rage, everything. To know what the Empire is doing is destroying everything, taking everyone's rights, their freedom. But that's why the rebellion is being built. And Lupin, who started all this in the first season, Lupin, who, saw Cassian, he's like, hey, you want a job? I can give you a job. And they stole credits from this Empire base. And one of the people worked with Senator Mothra's cousin. And he was in person, he was working for the guy that was part of Senator Mothra's cousin's group was an Imperial spy, and they stole these credits for the Empire to take everything back, saying yeah, the Empire's got all this money, and now we have to steal it. And Caspian was part of that crew and took some of the money, and then he went to the prison, which is so cool because Andy Serkis, who is part of the Star Wars as who played Snoke in the new Star Wars trilogy. So it's so cool to see Andy Serkis. And then Caspian still found a way to escape, and they freed the prison, and Caspian was on the loose. They finally were free from the Empire's control. And now, like I said, so Caspian went on a planet to find his friend. Turns out his friend was shot by another group. And they said, oh, we need to keep him alive because he knows about the ship. And that's what caused that little group civil war, because they had the ship. they had Caspian because Caspian was the one that flew the ship. And also it turns out when Caspian was flying off that planet, that was the planet of the Rebel home base itself. That is so awesome. It was so cool to know that the planet that he was on was what built the Rebellion Alliance itself. So that was kind of cool. He came home to Bix, and his friend was shot in the cornfield because the Empire found him, and Will. I have to say, guys, it just truly took me by surprise. And also seeing um, actor Forrest Whitaker to reprise his role from Rogue One, even though he died on Jedha when the Death Star fired. So that was kind of cool, showing that the rebellion was being built to stop what they're doing. You know, they need to find a way to stop them. And also to the show would do a year 1 year later, 1 year later, after, you know, because it was speeding up, coming towards Rogue One, which I was like, okay, it was, you know, kind of showing you that it's full circle, it's all coming together. And yes, rest in peace to Lupin, who passed away because he was trying to save the rebellion. He didn't want, you know, knowing he didn't want the Empire finding their secrets, to knowing what the rebellion was doing um, to know the secrets of the Death Star. Also, the officer woman who was on the planet with the little spiders. She was also arrested because they thought she was a rebel spy, which she wasn't. But she was arrested because they thought she was giving away the secrets. And then you heard Jyn Ursula's name being mentioned in the show because Jyn Ursula was the architect to the Death Star. So that was kind of cool. And knowing that, you know, director Krennic didn't want anyone's, that's why she's like, oh, who did you tell about this? Like, no one. I didn't tell anyone about this, I swear. So she got sent to prison because they didn't want, you know, again, the Empire does not want this getting out in their the wrong hands. That's why Scarif, the planet Scarif, which was the base of the Empire, had all the secrets there for the Death Star itself. So, excuse me, they also, you know, the Death Star destroyed Scarif so that no one would find the plans. So, and that's why they had to keep all this a secret because, you know, I guess technically they were sending money to the Death Star because they were saying, oh, it's a secret project, and they didn't want anyone finding out that the Death Star was being built by the fundings and money of, you know, all the planets, the senators who were involved in this project. And that's why, yes, at the very end, we did see the Death Star almost finished. But like I said, watching Rogue One is when it truly was complete. They needed the crystals to activate the station because that's what powers the Death Star itself, to know that Jedha was their test to blow up the planet. And everyone who was a part of this Rebel Alliance died. You know, the Empire set up the shooting at the planet that Caspian was on. So they, you know, they wanted to make it look like that the Gorman crowd was responsible for shooting the troopers. And it turns out, oh, the Empire wanted to set it up to be like, hey, shoot our new troopers that are out in the square and make it look like the Gormans were responsible. And a lot of people died in that battle. The Gorman resistant people, half of their crew was killed by one of the robots because it said, oh, send them out, send them out. And that's why they had to keep it a secret. So the Empire kind of covered it to make it like, oh, you know what? Make it look like the Gormans did it. And now you know why they went to this planet Gorman, because of the stone they needed to build the project for the Death Star itself. So, I mean, like I said, truly was awesome. And I'm just stoked by this show. And like I said, a lot of people died because they were trying to fight for their freedom to stop the empire itself so that the empire cannot win. And like I said, so many people, the guy who was a bellhop worked at the register, and he said rebellions are built on, the rebellion lives on hope itself. So he blew up the hotel because they were trying to stop the empire from hurting people and all that. Like I said, it was truly, truly awesome. And like I said, this is by far the best show. And at the very end of that show, yes, Kay made his appearance. Alan was talking in the show. He came and knocked out all the empires at the hotel when they were trying to free Lupin's assistant because she knew the secrets of the Death Star. So Alan came to their rescue saying, "I'm here to clear our escape." So that was kind of cool to see that Alan come back, reprise his role as KPS-0. So I was like, that was awesome. And like I said, it's just so cool. I said, yes, Andor is finished. It was the final season. Actor Diego was truly phenomenal playing Caspian himself, one of the men who survived this whole attack of the rebellion itself. So, it's just truly awesome that all of this connected together to build the empire and, building the rebellion, and the planet was finally finished for the rebellion to stop everyone, finally take on the empire itself, and to, to save the galaxy. They're working together to save the galaxy itself. Stop the empire from growing. The empire's out of control, and now people are trying their best to save everyone's life and help for their right, what they deserve. Stop the empire from winning and destroying everything that they've built. And now the rebellion can finally live. And like I said, so many people were lost in this show, but the rebellion will always be the strong hope. They built on hope. They build on honor and justice itself. We have to keep fighting the good fight to stop the empire itself. Like I said, I think this is by far one of my favorite Star Wars shows, and I don't think anybody will ever come close to this show. It won an Emmy for it. So, like I said, season 2, phenomenal. And Bix is a mother. She went back to the planet where they made the wheat, the grain. So Bix is now a mother. She's finally free. She finally made her own decision where she wants to belong and where she wants to do her own thing. So, like I said, this was an awesome show, guys, and I'm truly gonna miss this show. Like I said, I'm gonna miss it. This was by far the best show, and long live Andor, long live the Empire, long live the rebellion. I will say, I think this is probably the top show of Star Wars of all time, and this will always go down history as the best show. Well, that does it today, guys, for my review of this show. I hope you guys enjoyed this show as I did. Like I said, I am very sad that this show is over, but like I said, hopefully there will be more Star Wars projects down the line. Like I said, we have to, enjoy the best Star Wars universe shows ever. And like I said, the Mandalorian Grogu movie will be out very soon next year with Avengers Doomsday. So, like I said, I'm ready. This is going to be awesome. May the Force be with you guys. Have a great day. I'll talk to you later. Be awesome, be geeky, and just keep living every day, guys, because you're the greatest people of all times. Be one with the Force, everyone. Bye.